All right, everybody, Marcia Niles.
Woo!
So my story started actually one morning when I was on my way to work, and I went into Starbucks to get a cappuccino, and I immediately noticed the guy standing in front of me in line because he looked like a rock star. He had long blonde hair and green eyes and these tight black pants and sort of biker boots. He was a combination of like Marilyn Manson and Rod Stewart, which I know you can imagine that's what he looked like. And I was sort of dressed for work with, just a dress and high heels, so we could not have looked more different. But it was a Monday morning and I was bored, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna start flirting with him. I had a long week in front of me. What could that hurt, right? So I was kind of bold when it came to men, and I was in the middle of a dating dry spell, so I thought a little Starbucks conversation couldn't do any harm. And we chatted for a bit, got our coffees, and surprisingly, he said, do you want to sit down with me and have your coffee? And I said, okay. We sat down together, and everyone else in Starbucks disappeared. He told me he was a goth musician, and although I did know who Marilyn Manson was, I knew nothing about goth music, nothing. I said, I don't think I'm your type, and he said, you're wrong. You're exactly my type. He said, I like corporate straight women. They turn me on. So I was like, okay. He asked me, he said, do you want to come and visit me in my studio tomorrow night? And I mean, at this time in my life, I was like literally starving for sex. So he was like the perfect candidate. It's like, yes, I'll be there. So we finished our coffees. I left Starbucks. I went to work. I turned on my computer and I spent the whole morning researching goth music on the internet. And I found out it's very dark. But the next night, I swear, my body was literally vibrating as I drove over to his studio. I didn't know what to expect. I knew it wasn't, he didn't ask me to go to a movie, he didn't ask me to dinner. But when I walked into his apartment and I looked around, there was music equipment everywhere. There was guitars and amplifiers and microphones, and there was skulls on every available surface. And then the windows were covered with black velvet drapes with silver spider webs on them. And there was a vase filled with dead tulips on the coffee table. Okay, so I thought about it. This is all going on in my head while he's showing me around. I think I'm like a corporate person, but what turns me on? What turns me on? These angst-ridden, kind of troubled guys. That's what I wanted. And, anyway, one thing led to another. So several glasses of wine later, I was climbing the ladder to his loft bedroom. And within minutes, we're making love, right? And we're making love for hours. And then I'm like, holy shit, I have to go to work the next day. So it's 4 a.m. by the time I even leave. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to hear from him again. He's going to know we're on totally different wavelengths. So I thought, okay, this was a night I will never forget, even if it's only a one-night stand. The next day, I went to work and I opened my email, and there is an email from him. And I felt like it was Hanukkah. I couldn't believe it. This email is titled in capital letters in the subject line. It's titled Cutha, C-U-T-H-A. So I didn't know what this means. So I thought maybe it's a goth term. I don't know. I opened the email up, and he says, our night was Cutha. It was complete, utter, total hedonistic abandonment. I read this email over and over. This is how I spent my day at work. I read this email over and over. Complete, utter, total hedonistic abandonment. No one had ever said anything like this to me before, and I kind of took it as the biggest of compliments. So I emailed him back, and the next thing I know, we're seeing each other regularly. And he's always right. He is right in the moment. He says, according to him, it's all tits and ass. This is not a tit. He says it's all tits and ass, and he said you can't make it anything else. That's what it is. And every time we go out, I see we have less in common. I love Wong Kar-wai movies. He doesn't like foreign films. I have season seats for the Clippers. He doesn't like sports. I get up every morning at 6 a.m. to exercise. He sleeps till noon. I don't care. I'm like obsessed. I'm obsessed in ways I have not been since high school. I think about him constantly. If he doesn't call me, I call him. Why aren't you calling me? Where have you been? What's going on? When can I see you? And he says sometimes the music takes him to a dark place and he doesn't want to take me with. So I've done the research. I understand this explanation, so I don't question it, right? But I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm spending all of my money at Agent Provocateur, and I'm buying these bras. They've got little pink ribbons and these fancy stockings, and then I'm parading around my apartment in high heels and underwear, waiting for him to call me. I was flipping out. And every time he called, I would drop anything that I was doing, and I would see him. So this goes on for 6 months. And then he tells me he's going to move back to South Africa. This is where he's from. And I was not ready for this. I didn't want to lose him. And I just blurted out, why don't we try living together instead? And he was like, you know, he didn't really want to do it, but I'm like pretty persuasive. And so I just kept talking. And 2 weeks later, we moved in together. But the problem was when we moved in together, all of the music equipment moved in with him. So I had all this stuff. And I'm very OCD. I have this cleanliness obsession. So I'm vacuuming and I'm sweeping and dusting and I'm trying to make everything look good, but it's not in our little space. You know, it's not working. And then I kind of had to stop myself and I realized that none of my relationships had worked because I was trying to mold the people into exactly what I thought they should be. Not this guy. I didn't want to change this bad boy one bit. So I thought we could be polar opposites and we could still be in love. After 9 years, we got married. And the man I lusted after is now the man I love. But, you know, we put our pajamas on, we watch TV just like every other couple, but then some nights it's still complete, utter, total, hedonistic abandonment.